It is 3:01 p.m. and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We're looking at cloudy skies and 65 degrees in Music City. We'll have a complete forecast and traffic up next. Tensions continue to mount between the U.S. and Iranian-backed militant groups after yesterday's deadly attack on an American military base in Syria. The U.S. responded with airstrikes of its own. Then early this morning, U.S. officials say that 10 more rockets were fired at the American base. Fortunately, no damage or injuries this time, but at the Pentagon today, Brigadier General Pat Ryder refused to rule out a new round of U.S. airstrikes.
I'm not going to talk about or preview potential future operations other than to say we will always reserve the right to respond appropriately if our forces are threatened.
Some of the former Memphis police officers who pled not guilty to charges stemming from the death of Tyre Nichols will be barred from holding similar jobs in the future in Tennessee.
4 of the 5 former Memphis police officers charged with killing Tyre Nichols in January can no longer work as law enforcement in Tennessee. On Friday, the State Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission voted to decertify 3 of them while accepting Desmond Mills' decision to give up his certification. None of the officers were at the hearing. Mills' attorney said he was focusing on his freedom and the hearing was a waste of time. The 5th former officer charged, Tadarius Bean, has not yet had a hearing. In total, Memphis police requested 7 officers lose their certifications.
That is Brian Clark reporting. 18 months after announcing it, Ford Motor Company says it's still on track to start producing those electric vehicles near Memphis by 2025. The Governor Lee, was at a ceremony this morning to mark progress on the $5.6 billion project dubbed Blue Oval City.
Thank you for investing in the greatest state in the country. Tennessee has proven itself to be the best state in the nation to do business and the clear choice for the automotive industry.
Tennessee has also announced that they'll be building a college on site to prepare Tennesseans with an opportunity to be among the more than 30,000 people that Ford is saying they will be employing at the site. And finally, the Consumer Product Safety Commission has announced that about 33,100 of Kawasaki's riding lawnmower engines are being recalled due to fire hazards. The engines involved in the recall are from model years 2018 through last year for the Kawasaki FT730V EFI series. That is the latest news, weather and traffic on the way. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's 7 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk. Brian Wilson is in the chair and on the air here for another exciting edition of a thing we call The Drive. Friday, 24th of March. Man, I'm telling you, this week has flown by. Let's get this show done and begin the weekend. What do you say? I think that's a great idea. We'll start with, actually, I wasn't going to even talk about this today. I mean, the President of the United States is in Canada. And largely, I found that to be not of news value. I did not intend, it's just Canada. So who cares? It's Canada. But he's there, and this happened. I'll call it a breaking news alert. The President of the United States does not know which country he is in, because while addressing the Canadian Parliament, he said this.
So today, I applaud China for stepping up. I applaud Canada. You can tell what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so that tells you a couple of things. Number one, he's losing it. He doesn't even know where he is. And number two, apparently China has gotten inside his head. Here it is again.
You can tell what I'm thinking.
Yeah, he's thinking about China. All right, so there is that. Okay, so we got a lot to cover today. There is news with regard to Biden Inc. There's some Trump world stuff. Kamala Harris is a big story today, in that there is a rather scathing piece that was written by Reuters that talks about Kamala Harris and how the Biden administration is not at all enamored with the vice president, and they've got a real problem with that in that regard. Woke world, again, an embarrassment of riches in woke world today, and because it's Friday, we'll have not one but two complete sessions of Phone Your Farb Friday, that at 4:35 and 5:35. So if you've got something on your mind and you've been sitting on it, and I want to take this up with Wilson. I do. Maybe you're going to take umbrage at something I've said. Well, that'll be at 4:35, 5:35. A little thing we call Phone Your Farb Friday. I want to start with what happened in Syria. We talk so much about the fact that the United States is in a proxy war with Russia in Ukraine. And that seems to be where we spend most of our time talking. We forget we also have forces in Syria, and the Iranian-backed ISIS rebels are our enemy there, and so we're sort of in a proxy war with Iran as well. And Iran has people doing its bidding in Syria, and there was an attack against a U.S. base. They basically flew a drone right into a base. They killed one American contractor, injured others. It was we don't hear much about all that going on most days. We responded. They retaliated by, lobbing some very inaccurate rockets that did absolutely nothing. But again, this is a little tit for tat back and forth in Syria today. And today there was a briefing about it. And the real question here that seems to be developing is what happened so that a slow-moving drone could fly and crash into a base and kill American lives, kill Americans. Drones, they don't move very fast. And so in the briefing, we got a whole lot of nothing out of the Pentagon as to how this all went down. More questions than answers. Here is Brigadier General Pat Ryder.
Can you say whether or not any of the radars or aerostats or anything that are there either failed or were not operating? Is there adequate protection there now? How did the drone pierce the security of that base?
Broadly speaking, for operation security reasons, I'm not going to get into the specifics in terms of the types of force protection capabilities we have in our facilities, other than to say we take force protection very, very seriously.
Isn't it interesting that every time something bad happens, the official answer somewhere within the Biden administration is, we take these matters seriously? Okay. But then he went on to say, even though I'm not going to tell you anything about our force protection, I will tell you this.
I will say, as it pertains to radar, my understanding is that there was a complete site picture in terms of radar.
All right, then Jennifer Griffin from Fox News took a stab at it and got a little bit more information.
Did it crash into the facility or fire a weapon at the facility?
It did not fire a weapon, to my knowledge.
So that's an interesting question, because if it was an Iranian drone, and we do believe it was an Iranian drone, there's no doubt about that, provided to the Syrian rebels, okay, the drone itself would be moving very slow. If it had a capability of firing a missile is a more difficult thing to stop. A slow-moving drone ought to be no problem. Okay, so and getting that side of decided is sort of important to knowing exactly what happened.
So if you say the radar was working and if you were tracking it and drones don't fly that quickly, how is it that it was able to crash into the base? And you say that you're protecting those bases.
Look, now you're protecting the bases, but a drone got through. That's a great question, Jennifer.
Again, this is a dangerous part of the world. The work that we do is inherently dangerous. That's why you have the military in these types of places conducting these type of operations. We've seen rocket attacks, mortar attacks in the past from these kinds of groups. Again, CENTCOM will do an assessment in terms of the attack, but the fact is that these IRGC-backed groups conducted this attack, and unfortunately we had an American killed.
Why wasn't there a contingency to shoot down the drone if it was coming into the base?
Again, look, we take a variety of measures to safeguard our people, but again, it's an inherently dangerous place, and again, we'll look into the details of the actual attack.
It's an inherently dangerous place, and we'll do an investigation, but they don't have any answers. I mean, that's a pretty good question. You say your radar was working. There was nothing, equipment-wise, that should have prevented you from knowing that the drone was coming, and yet you could not take out a slow-moving drone before it crashed into a base and killed Americans and injured others. That's sort of an unacceptable answer. And it may be that they don't have the answers yet, and it may be that they need to do the investigation. But bottom line is Americans died, and this is a rare thing in this part of the world. It doesn't happen every day. We do have superior abilities in that region, and yet the Iranian-backed rebels in Syria were able to just fly a drone right into one of our bases. All right, radar's working. They just crashed the drone in. Drones don't move very fast. There's some questions to be answered here for sure. And we don't stop and talk about what's going on in Syria very often because it doesn't make news very often. I mean, and that's on us. We should pay attention. We have American men and women on the ground in that region. So here's what we know. The Defense Department said Thursday, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps crashed a UAV into a building near Hasaka in northeast Syria, approximately 1:30 p.m. local time, and it killed one U.S. contractor and wounded 5 U.S. service members and another U.S. contractor. So what is that, 5? That's 7 people all told, 1 dead, 6 injured. According to the Syrian Observation for Human Rights and Opposition War Monitor, 2 of the American strikes killed at least 8 Iranian figures. So we responded and killed 8 Iranian fighters, and then they lobbed a bunch of rockets back at us, and that didn't do anything because they were, that was just a fit of pique. You have to, we can't stand around and do nothing. By God, they just hit us, and so they just lobbed some rockets, and they're notoriously inaccurate. Didn't hit anything, made a lot of noise. The U.S. intelligence assessed the UAV that crashed into a coalition base, which killed the U.S. contractor, was of Iranian origin, and that's why there was a retaliation that was ordered. So there you have it. 3 service members and you were wounded in the initial attack, were medically evacuated to coalition medical facilities in Iraq. And, of course, we have nothing but thoughts for the family and the colleagues of the contractor who was killed. They said the U.S. took proportionate and deliberate action that limited the risk of escalation See, they say, well, we don't really want to start a war with Iran. But isn't it interesting that, Iran and the Iran Revolutionary Guard picked this fight at this moment at a time when we are now beginning to hear that Iran is very, very, very close to being able to put together enough nuclear material to put together a bomb. They say they could have that done in a couple of weeks. They could get enough material, and then maybe it would be about another couple of months before they would have a bomb. Not a good thing. And why aren't we paying more attention to that? Why aren't we more focused on that? I think the answer is probably we're counting on the Israelis to take care of it. But there was also another interesting thing that happened the other day. You may not have caught it. All of a sudden, the Iranians and the Saudis have become tighter. They've come together on some kind of make nice agreement. So who knows what that's all about? Except that Iran has continued to develop the possibility of nuclear weapons in an area where we said we would never allow that to happen, and they're said to be 2 weeks away. They could do it in 2 weeks and put together. They'd have enough in 2 weeks, and then they could put a bomb together, and within a couple of months. These are scary times. That heightens the danger in that part of the world. But I think the big question, at least the more initial question that we're going to be answering in the days ahead, is how did a drone, how did it permeate, how did it penetrate, what is supposed to be a pretty good air defense system that we have protecting our troops there. We say we take it seriously, but something fell through the cracks there, and about the size of an Iranian drone. 20 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We all know Genesis diamonds for, well, they're diamonds, of course. Hand-picked, carefully cut, super brilliant, top quality. But Genesis is also well known for their amazing rings. That's the mounting that actually showcases the diamond, right? And most stores, you get the same old, boring, mass-produced, generic-looking rings. But at Genesis, they carry rings from the world's top designers, exclusive designers. Names like Tacori and Verragio and dozens more. These are handcrafted rings, made in America rings. Genesis is proud to offer the latest styles and designs, so the rings you have is special, unique, and not a carbon copy of your friend's ring. Check out the all-new knife edge bands at Genesis. The knife edge setting looks amazing. It's like a classic silhouette with a sharp edge that goes all the way around. The knife edge creates the illusion of a thinner band, which makes the diamond appear larger. Genesis has over 4,000 mountings in stock, and they can also custom design something for you. So while the diamond is important, the overall look of the ring is just as vital. So let the non-commissioned experts at Genesis help you find the ring of her dreams. Genesis Diamond, expert guidance, unbeatable selection, high quality, and legendary value. Go see them in Green Hills and in Cool Springs.
President Biden in Canada today, and Pentagon officials saying they have not ruled out additional airstrikes in Syria. Details coming up at 3:30. I'm Jay Harper on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's now, make it 25 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. Brian Wilson on the air for you on another exciting edition of The Drive. Thank you for joining us. Greatly appreciated. We spent a lot of time talking about this yesterday, so I won't spend a lot of time on it today. But I do think it's interesting to point out that the CEO of TikTok, his name is Zhao Chu. Well, Chu got chewed up pretty good yesterday in this committee hearing by both Republicans and Democrats. I mean, it was bipartisan. It was even-handed. Almost everybody on this particular committee sort of let Chu have it. And that basically they do not believe anything that he's saying with regard to China. Of course, the concern is that TikTok is out there, and it basically can be sort of a way for the Chinese government to gather intelligence on Americans, everyday Americans. But it was interesting to note that both the Democrats and the Republicans were not accepting anything that Chu was saying. And I think we're probably headed toward a ban of TikTok in America.
The CCP has access right now to any data they want that belongs to us. And that's why I say, again, this is a backdoor for the Beijing government.
This is Josh Hawley.
Into our private lives, into our personal security, into the heads of our children, and we've got to close that door. The only thing to do is to ban it. You mentioned the Biden administration. You know, TikTok's not stupid. They went out and hired a PR firm that was founded by Biden administration people. They are trying to purchase the Democrat Party right now. Why are all of these corporate media outlets now rehearsing TikTok's lines for them? It's because TikTok is out there pushing this. They're out there buying influence of the Democrat Party. Let's put it to a vote. Let's just see what the tally is. Let's see who's willing to ban this thing.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think that you do have some Democrats that are trying to stand in the way of this. I mean, this hearing, the Democrats were all in unison with the Republicans. It's pretty interesting. But there are those out there. And will the White House be in favor of banning TikTok, even though it's a national security concern? Maybe not. And the word comes that the White House is concerned because they feel like if they ban TikTok, Democrats will lose every Democrat voter under the age of 35. Okay, so which is more important, your political survivability or your national security? And I think it's going to come down to that. Interesting, this story, which is sort of related. Utah's Governor Spencer Cox on Thursday signed 2 bills into law setting limits on social media use for minors, including a measure that provides that parental consent must be done before you can sign up for a social media account. We're no longer willing to let social media companies continue to harm the mental health of our youth, says Cox, a Republican. It's called the Utah Social Media Regulation Act, requires social media companies to verify that users in the state are at least 18 years old in order to open an account on platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. Minors under the age of 18 will need permission to open an account. You cannot open an account in Utah without your parents' permission until you reach the age of 18. I wonder how that's going to fly in Utah. I wonder if that's something that might be considered in other states. Seems like to me, not a bad idea, actually. I mean, are children really ready? Are young children ready for the wild west that is social media? I mean, all the stuff that is out there. All the things that can happen. I mean, as an adult, you know the crazy stuff that can happen in social media. Is this a place where children should be playing? I sort of like this idea. I like the idea of minors having to get parental permission in order to set up one of these accounts, or otherwise they have to wait until they're 18 years old. I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and whether other states take up that idea, maybe even here in Tennessee, something that the state legislature might consider. But one way or the other, TikTok looks to be in trouble. And my sense of it is that there's going to be a bill passed. It's going to have wide bipartisan support. It's going to go to the desk of the president, and then he's going to have to decide whether or not he cares more about national security than he does about the 35-year-old and under who might vote against him because he banned TikTok. We'll watch it. It is now 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7.
It is 3:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. It's cloudy, 66 degrees on Music Row. We've got weather and traffic on the way. President Joe Biden today speaking to a joint session of the Canadian Parliament in Ottawa, addressing lawmakers and dignitaries in the House of Commons.
Needs the U.S. and Canada working together.
Nowhere is that more obvious than our united response to Russia's brutal aggression against Ukraine.
The president accused Russia of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity and said the U.S. and Canada continue to make clear their commitment to the NATO alliance and will defend every inch of NATO territory.
That's ABC's Karen Travers. Tensions continue to mount between the U.S. and Iranian-backed militant groups after yesterday's deadly drone attack on an American military base in Syria. The U.S. responded with airstrikes of its own. Then early this morning, officials say that 10 rockets were fired at the American base. Fortunately, no damage or injuries this time. But at the Pentagon today, Brigadier General Pat Ryder refused to rule out a new round of U.S. retaliation. Ryder said the military is still assessing the outcome of yesterday's airstrikes.
Initial indications are that the facilities were destroyed. In regards to any militant casualties, we're still assessing.
WSMV reports that Tennessee Highway Patrol troopers are investigating a fatal crash that involved a car and a semi-truck on Thursday night. According to a preliminary report, Carlos Hernandez, 23, tried to pass a driver in a passing zone on Manchester Pike near Murfreesboro. He was unable to get around that vehicle and hit a semi-truck head-on. Hernandez died as a result of that crash, according to police, and the crash is still under investigation. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Let me talk to you about Busy Bee, HVAC, and plumbing. I mean, actually, these folks are really nice folks. They will come to your house. You got a problem with your plumbing, your heating, your cooling. It can be any of those three things this time of year for sure. Well, just call. They will buzz over to your hive, and they'll fix whatever is wrong. They are your official Rude Pro partner. You're never going to find a better value on HVAC and plumbing replacement systems if that's what you need. It may not be, that's necessary, but good to know that you can get 12 months same as cash with approved credit. I think the way to go, I'm a big fan of this idea, is to become a member of the Beehive Club for as little as $99. You'll get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing, no overtime charges 24/7, and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, it's your official Rude Pro partner for satisfaction guaranteed. Call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling at 775-7833. That's 615-775-7833. Online at busybeehvac.com.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
It's 38 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7, Brian Wilson on the air. Thank you for joining us on this Friday, or as I like to call it, Friday. Nice little shower that came through, and I think we got to be weather aware. One eye on the weather, starting later tonight. There was one front that came through. I thought, oh, that wasn't so bad. Then I found out, oh, well, that's not the one we're worried about. So we got another thing coming in later. And you do need to stay tuned to Super Talk 99.7 and be weather aware in case things start to get a little hinky a little later tonight. Bringing you up to date on what's going on with the investigation into Biden Inc. Again, Miranda Devine at the New York Post has a pretty fascinating story. You know, she broke the Hunter Biden laptop story and has just been on the cutting edge of this thing every step of the way. I think an exceptionally good reporter. I don't think anything that they have put out there has ever had to be walked back. And that's a sign of somebody who crosses their T's, dots their I's, and makes sure that they have their facts right. This one is interesting. Hunter Biden used an FBI mole named One Eye. I don't know why he's called One Eye, to tip him off to China probes. Hunter Biden had an FBI mole named One Eye, according to the Post, who tipped off his Chinese business partners they were under investigation according to an Israeli energy expert arrested in Cyprus last month on gun running charges. The House Oversight Committee is investigating the explosive claims by Dr. Gal Luft, a former Israel Defense Forces lieutenant colonel with deep intelligence ties in Washington and Beijing, who says he was arrested to stop him from revealing what he knows about the Biden family and FBI corruption, details he told the Department of Justice in 2019, which he says they ignored roundly at the time. Luft is 56, made his claims on February 18th on Twitter after being detained at a Cyprus airport as he prepared to board a plane to Israel. I've been arrested in Cyprus on a politically motivated extradition request by the U.S. The U.S. claiming I'm an arms dealer. It would be funny if it weren't tragic. I have never been an arms dealer. The DOJ is trying to bury me to protect Joe, Jim, and Hunter Biden. Shall I name names? He remains in jail awaiting extradition to the U.S. over what he says are trumped-up charges of arms trafficking to China and Libya and violations of the Foreign Agents Registration Act. But through his lawyer, Robert Hinnock, Luft has said he tried 4 years ago to inform the DOJ that Chinese state-controlled energy company CEFC had paid $100,000 a month to President Biden's son Hunter and $65,000 to Joe's brother Jim in exchange for their FBI connections and to use the Biden name to promote China Belt and Road initiatives around the world. And so apparently the real headline out of this is that this guy says that he is aware that Hunter Biden had a mole at the FBI who tipped him off to an investigation that they were doing on one of the Hunter Biden's clients. Hunter Biden's client got notified, and he got out of town, at least for a while, and got clear, left his family behind. He left the United States, eventually was arrested, but, I mean, you know, apparently there was a tip-off. Now, that would be a real problem if it turns out to be true. We'll see. We're watching that one. Yesterday, there was a hearing, and it was GOP Representative Tom Tiffany asked a leader of the gun safety advocacy group, Every Town for Gun Safety, in a House hearing why first son Hunter Biden had not been prosecuted for apparently lying on his 2018 application to buy a gun, which really set off a firestorm inside the committee. Why hasn't Hunter Biden been prosecuted for the crime that he committed? The Wisconsin lawmaker asked Rob Wilcox, according to Just the News, a senior policy director for the group, at the hearing titled ATF's Assault on the Second Amendment. When is enough enough? I'm not aware of the facts of that case, and I can't comment on it, responded Wilcox. But then you hear the Democrats apparently come unglued over the fact that someone had the temerity to ask that question. I mean, we know that Hunter Biden got a gun at a time which he has written in his book he was on drugs. Which meant that he did not tell the truth when applying for the gun. The gun was reportedly found in 2018 in a trash can outside a market in Delaware. And the firearm transaction report, again, Biden purchased it earlier month. Apparently, it was put in the trash can by his sister-in-law who he was dating. I know. It's hard to keep up with all of the weird turns of that particular family. And then the question about what's going on the other side of the equation with Trump, will he or won't he Bragg, this is from thehill.com, faces an historic test with Trump indictment. Will he be the first person in history to prosecute an indicted former president? I don't know that they're going to bring it. I think this thing is falling apart. And I think that Donald Trump sort of won this round when it became very clear that he didn't care whether they brought any charges. He didn't think there was anything there. This has been backed up by someone who testified on his behalf before the grand jury, a guy named Costello, who is completely aware of all of the testimony of a guy by the name of Michael Cohen, who is the main accuser in the Stormy Daniels Oh, I, I can't remember what they call it. Here's what the president calls it.
The Stormy Horseface Daniels extortion plot.
That's it. I'm sorry. The Stormy. Oh, I got to get this. Stormy Horseface Daniels extortion plot.
The Stormy Horseface Daniels extortion plot.
Yeah, and so, that whole case just blew up in Bragg's face. We hear that it won't be considered again until Monday. There's actually one line of thinking is that Democrats got to him and said, you know what? This is making him stronger. This is not hurting him. It's making him stronger. His numbers are up. I'll get into that a little later in the program, but Trump's numbers are up significantly ever since it became clear that they were apparently considering bringing a charge against him on what the former president calls
the Stormy Horseface Daniels extortion plot.
All right, so Alvin Bragg is caught between a rock and a hard spot, said Susan Del Percio, a longtime New York-based Republican strategist. He had to bring the charges forward because of public pressure, but he isn't sure if they'll stick. Bragg is probing Trump's involvement in the Horseface Daniels. But this is something that the Department of Justice looked at several years ago, and came up with the conclusion that there was no there. And in order to bring this thing back to life, he has to sort of get it upgraded from a misdemeanor to a felony, because otherwise the matter is no longer prosecutable. It's too old. And so to get as a felony, he's having to sort of bring forth a rather novel, never tried before approach to the law. And most people think that he really doesn't have a case. It's likely that a judge will throw it out. Not very likely that he would get a conviction on that, because and on top of all that, all of the evidence that he presented got blown up, completely blown up as not being accurate. That whatever Cohen told him behind closed doors, one day later was completely blown up by this guy Costello, who brought in documents and could prove that everything that Cohen might have said, he had said something different before, which makes him a very unreliable witness. I don't know. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I think it's pretty much dead. But it is interesting. I think, honestly, Trump is reportedly ready to put on the handcuffs, get the mug shot, believes that this will not hurt him, it will help him, and I think he's right. And there's a good deal of evidence to suggest that it has helped him. His numbers have surged. And why would you go forward with something that makes him a sympathetic character when you really don't have a very strong case to begin with? And I think that Bragg realizes he's going to look pretty stupid, going to have a lot of egg on his face, because he wants to, initially wanted to put on a good dog and pony show and to try to take Trump down a notch. It actually blows up in his face, and it will, based on what we now know about the case. It sounds almost certain that it will blow up in his face. Well, anyway, I don't think it's going to happen, but if it does happen, it only serves to make Trump stronger. He is not he's not weakened by this. He is strengthened by this. He is Obi-Don Kenobi.
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
That's right. And as they say,
this is the way.
This is the way. Yeah, excellent. It's 49 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
A radioactive water leak at a Minnesota nuclear power plant. And Ford Motor Company says the electric vehicle plant planned for just outside Memphis is on schedule. All this and more coming up at 4 o'clock. I'm Jay Harper on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right. This story is breaking this afternoon. Chairman of several Republican chairmen in the House have raised concerns about how the Border Patrol mounted unit might be investigated and perhaps disciplined. The chairman said they've learned the disciplinary action the agents will face over the incident down on the border where they were twirling their reins. And I mean, it was completely misunderstood what they were doing. But one way or the other, they've been able to not be seriously disciplined now. But the concern is that the final disciplinary action will come not from a Border Patrol chief or a supervisor or sector chief, but will be determined by a senior executive with no experience in Border Patrol or law enforcement. Read this to be a political player. The president said those people would be disciplined. He would make sure of it. It was then that he found out they had not done anything wrong. They simply were twirling their reins in order to keep people from being stepped on by the horses. Just asking, trying to keep them back. They were, they were not being, whipped in any way, which was what everybody thought in the initial going. He said the people will pay, and so now the question is, who will make the final decision? Will it be somebody who knows something about law enforcement, or will it be a political person within the Department of the Border Patrol? All right, looking very quickly, markets, Dow Jones Industrials up 132 points, S&P up 22, NASDAQ up 36. All screens are green. Brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. Learn more at beaconcm.com. 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock.
It is straight up 4 o'clock, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Cloudy conditions, 66 degrees downtown. We'll have the complete weather forecast for you and traffic as well in 5 minutes. Radioactive water leaked from a Minnesota nuclear power plant for the second time in less than 6 months.
About 400,000 gallons of water with radioactive material leaked from an Xcel Energy facility late last year in Monticello. This week, the company said it discovered another leak in a temporary fix at that plant. And while there's no risk to the public, it'll be shut down so permanent repairs can be made. This leak was announced a day after it was discovered and likely amounted to hundreds of gallons of radioactive water. State regulators say they're monitoring the groundwater and they'll inform the public if there's any risk.
That's Brian Clark. Earlier today, an attorney for former President Trump spent 3 hours in front of a D.C. grand jury investigating whether Trump mishandled classified documents.
Trump attorney Evan Corcoran did not answer any questions from reporters as he left the courthouse. Sources familiar tell ABC News the special counsel subpoenaed Corcoran to testify about a document he drafted, which was signed by another Trump attorney, certifying that all classified materials in Trump's possession had been turned over to the DOJ. That certification was later found to be false, prompting the FBI to search Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate where more than 100 classified documents were retrieved. Trump has denied any wrongdoing.
Faith Abube reporting. President Joe Biden today speaking to a joint session of the Canadian Parliament in Ottawa, Canada. He addressed lawmakers and dignitaries in the House of Commons. Karen Travers has the latest.
President Biden said in an address to the Canadian Parliament that the world needs the U.S. and Canada working together.
Nowhere is that more obvious than our united response to Russia's brutal aggression against Ukraine.
The president accused Russia of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity and said the U.S. and Canada continue to make clear their commitment to the NATO alliance and will defend every inch of NATO territory.
18 months after the announcement, Ford Motor Company says it's still on track to start producing those electric vehicles near Memphis by 2025. The Governor Lee, was at a ceremony with Ford corporate leaders this morning to mark progress on the $5.6 billion project dubbed Blue Oval City.
And it brings hope, and it brings opportunity. So more than anything else today is a new beginning with new opportunities for thousands of families all across West Tennessee.
Tennessee has also announced they will build a college on site to prepare Tennesseans with an opportunity to be among the more than 30,000 people that Ford is saying they're going to be hiring at the site. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are on the way. I'm Jay Harper for WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's Friday, the 24th day of March. It's time for yet another exciting hour of the drive. We'll drive you home. We'll get you all set up with all the information you need to carry on a pretty spirited conversation over dinner. By gosh, that's what we'll do. All right. This story is reverberating. This is if you want to know what's really buzzing in the swamp right now. It's a story that was written by Reuters about Kamala Harris. And the headline doesn't say that the story is about Kamala Harris. It's about Biden, going through the process now of getting ready to run for re-election. But, boy, the quotes about Kamala Harris, are sort of searing. That there's a. I'll just read you now. I am not able to, because it's behind a paywall, and even though I tried to pay, I couldn't get a copy of the Reuters thing to work today. But there have been many stories written about the Reuters story, and so I'm going to go with that right now. Biden is annoyed at Kamala Harris for not rising to the occasion and says that the vice president is just scared of messing up. Well, that's, I can understand why she'd be scared, because she messes up a lot. I don't think the president sees her as somebody who takes anything off his plate, said one former White House official to Reuters. President Biden, this is the Fox News version of the same story, reportedly frustrated at Vice President Kamala Harris for not rising to the occasion as his second in command, according to a recent report from Reuters. The bombshell story, yes, they call it a bombshell story, from Reuters included comments from high-ranking officials in the Biden administration who revealed some of the president's candid opinions about Harris. If he did not think she was capable, he would not have picked her, said one former Biden official. But it is a question of consistently rising to the occasion. A second former official highlighted a point of tension between Biden and Harris. I don't think the president sees her as somebody who takes anything off his plate. A second White House official said, adding, a fear of messing up has caused Harris to be late in joining important political fights like the ongoing border crisis. Biden put Harris in charge of border issues in 2021, but she notably neglected to visit the border, going only after she took heavy flack in the press and from interest groups. If you were given a job 2 years ago, said the National Border Control Council, with the explicit goal of reducing illegal immigration, then you sit around and do nothing while illegal immigration explodes to levels never seen before, you should be fired and replaced, period. A current administration official, this is somebody that's still there now, acknowledged that Harris's weakness on the border issues. I think she is smart. She does not see this as a political win for her, because it's not. It's a really hard issue. Well, bless her, pea-picking hard. It's a really hard issue. Well, we wouldn't want to give the vice president anything that's hard. Second most powerful person in the country, one heartbeat away from the presidency, and she doesn't want to take it on. Well, it's because it's hard. Well, wake up. What do you think the job is all about? One of the things you're supposed to do as a vice president is take heat off the president. Well, I don't want to do that. That's hard. This is not Harris's first conflict with some Democrat heavyweights. She reportedly was quite miffed at Senator Elizabeth Warren and would not take her phone calls for a while after Warren simply said, when asked, do you think that do you support Kamala Harris as the vice president in 2024 as part of the Biden team? And she said at the time, Elizabeth Warren did, I really want to defer to what makes the Biden team comfortable. Well, Kamala took that as an insult, and they apparently were not speaking for some time, even though Elizabeth Warren went back and tried to clean that up. Nobody at the White House is, now responding to this story, but it does highlight what a serious problem the Democrats have right now. Let's talk about it. A president who's 80 years old. Missing a step. I mean, did you hear the thing that happened today? I played it earlier. I'll play it one more time here. He's in Canada. He's speaking to the Canadian Parliament. And he's trying to say, I salute you, Canada. And it came out all wrong. Here it is.
So today, I applaud China for stepping up. I applaud Canada. You can tell what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, two things there. Number one, he doesn't know what country he's in. And number two, China clearly is inside his head. But I mean, you've got an 80-year-old president who does this kind of stuff almost on a daily basis. And you got a vice president who has worse ratings, approval ratings, than he does. How is that a winning ticket for Democrats? They've got a hell of a problem. A hell of a problem. And I don't know how that's going to get resolved. I actually keep coming to I keep thinking. I mean, honestly, look, let me just tell you this. Let me give you the official version. If you're a smart person, the way it looks right now, all of the signs indicate that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, that Joe Biden's going to run for re-election, and he's going to run with Kamala Harris. He can't get rid of her. I mean, that would alienate, a lot of Democrats, and certainly African-American Democrats would not be happy to see her shoved to the side. So I don't know how he gets rid of her, and it sounds like he is determined to run. So the smart money is Joe Biden runs for re-election with Kamala. Okay? Now, that's the smart money, the way things look today. The official word is, when you ask Kamala about this, she says, well, the president says he intends to run, and if he does run, I'll be there with him. That's the way she puts it. She says that every time she's asked. So, the president intends to run. Now, let me just game this for a moment. This is not the smart thinking. This is my thinking. I don't mean it the way it sounds. I mean, honestly, I look at this and I say, why in the world would they run this guy? Surely somebody will pull him aside and say, look, Joe, you don't need to run. You're missing a step. And by the way, people are not going to have a great deal of confidence in your number two. I mean, honestly, if you had a strong number two right behind him, people would not have a problem voting for Biden. Okay, Biden's there, but don't worry. If something happens to Biden, we got a strong number two. But you don't have a strong number two, and you can't get rid of the number two that you have, right? So I keep thinking somebody will pull him aside. Joe, it's really not working for you. I also believe that some of this stuff that has been released and handed over to Republicans in the House that are helping them get very, very close to figuring out where the money went in the Biden Incorporated investigation, Hunter Biden's, operation, and how much money was going to, quote unquote, the big guy. I think all of that is starting to happen at a very interesting time. I mean, they're getting close. Is that because somebody on the Democrat side released them the documents that they've been sort of dragging their feet on so that Republicans can make some headway? I don't know. One way or the other, it's still in the back of my mind, I keep thinking, surely they're not going to do this, that it's not in their best interest to do this. The smart money says that's what's going to happen, but it keeps nagging at me. It doesn't make any sense. Surely that's not really what they will do. And I will tell you this, Biden would say, he understands one thing about the game. He would say this, till the bitter end. He would say that he intends to run. I intend to run. I intend to run. I intend to run. He would say that until he was, literally, he makes the announcement that he's not. Why? Because the moment he says he's not running, he's a lame duck president, and he knows that. As long as people, suspect that he might be around for a while, they have to take him seriously as president. But if he says that he's not running, he instantly becomes sort of a lame duck, doesn't have near as much power, doesn't have near as much clout, somebody that you can wait out, okay? So I understand why he might not want to say it, even if it's his intention not to run. One way or the other, smart money says he's running, Kamala will be the running mate. But there's just a part of me that says, you know what, that doesn't make any sense. And if I were a Democrat strategist, I would find some way to come up with an alternative plan. Just what I'm saying. But clearly, they're throwing a lot of shade in the direction of Kamala. Is that an attempt to try to pressure Biden to dump her? I can't imagine he would do that. We'll see what happens. House Republicans want to have put together a resolution saying that they would like to remove Kamala as border czar. Republican Texas Representative Ronnie Jackson reintroduced a resolution first obtained by the Daily Caller that calls for Vice President Kamala Harris to be removed from her position as border czar. I don't think it's an official position. Friday marks 2 years since the president appointed Harris as head of the border crisis, something Republicans are saying she and the president have completely failed to handle. Well, that's true. And so, there are those over on the House who are making noise, say she should be removed as border czar. This story comes from the Washington Examiner. Headline: Biden and Harris both weak going into 2024. No kidding. President Joe Biden's approval rating has fallen to 38%. His lowest ever is 36. Just last month, he was at 45. The economy is still a problem. When respondents were asked, generally speaking, would you say things in this country are headed in the right direction or the wrong direction, the oldest question in the polling book, just 21% said the country is headed in the right direction versus 78% who said headed in the wrong direction. It fell 7 points from just last month. The wrong direction number rose, rather, right, 7 points. So she is looked at as being incredibly weak, and he's looked at as looking incredibly weak right now. I want to get to this other part. Here's one more thing in this story. It says, one more thing. He apparently cannot or will not change his vice presidential running mate either. I beg your pardon. He said that could be another big problem. A new report from Reuters, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, he said, presidents look to vice presidents to take on difficult and unrewarding jobs, and Biden doesn't see Harris doing that. A point of tension in their relationship is that I don't think the president sees her as somebody who takes anything off his plate. But there's no way in the world he can dump her because it would not go over well in some quarters of the Democrat Party, where she has a very natural constituency. And finally, let me throw this out. On the Republican side of the equation for 2024, has Florida Governor Ron DeSantis peaked already? I told you yesterday that Trump was surging and DeSantis was fading in the most recent polls. And the Washington Examiner asked the question rhetorically, it has DeSantis peaked? He hasn't even announced yet. He was on the rise earlier this year. The Monmouth poll put Trump's lead at 41-27. DeSantis led Trump in that poll as recently as December. So DeSantis in that poll was leading, and now it's Trump 41, DeSantis 27. I mean, that's a turnaround. And there are other polls that show this as well, that Trump's numbers are going up among Republican primary voters, and DeSantis's numbers, even though he hasn't yet announced, are going down. Interesting times in this 2024 race, and we haven't even really barely gotten started. 21 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So how are you faring in this rough and tumble market? The experts at Beacon Capital Management understand, well, it can be a little scary. But here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are and help you make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. I mean, wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path? Beacon can provide you with that reassurance. It starts with a simple phone call. The experts at Beacon will take it from there. I mean, what do you have to lose except for all the worry that you have right now? Get started today by calling 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence you're on the right path, all the T's crossed, all the I's dotted. The number again, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. Learn more at beaconcm.com.
An inmate from the Rutherford County Adult Detention Center walks away from a work detail, and we'll have the money news. All this coming up at 4:30. I'm Jay Harper on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk. Get ready, because at 4:35 after the news, we're going to have our first edition of Phone Your Farb Friday. So if you got something that you want to talk about, let me know. Well, hey, let's do this if you want to. It's time for a little woke world. I'm just not in the mood for it today. I'm sorry, just with extreme prejudice. AOC lost her mind yesterday when the House of Representatives passed something known as a Parents' Bill of Rights. Well, I mean, what a concept this is. The GOP's response to growing anger about the lack of access to school information across the nation. Parents are being gone around in the environment, in the educational environment, and it's not right. And so they're saying, no, we think that parents have rights. What a concept that is. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who don't believe me, she's always says she's the boss. She lost her ever-loving mind.
This is a bill. This Republican bill is asking the government to force the outing of LGBT people before they are ready.
Well, no, that's not what it's all about. It's about saying that if you're going to have a conversation with a kid, that you cannot exclude the parents from that conversation. I don't know any parent who wants to be gone around by a school bureaucrat who is, putting forth some kind of woke agenda. Listen, I mean, it's just not right to have a child and be responsible for that child until they reach the age of 18. You are responsible for that child. Well, but no, in the woke Democrat world, the school gets to make decisions about what's right for your child, not the parent. Oh, this just chaps me. The House voted to pass the Parents' Bill of Rights Friday over objections from Democrats who argued the bill is aimed at promoting fascism. How is it fascist to have parents involved in their kids' life? They called it extreme. How is it extreme for parents to be included in conversations about their own children? And they said that it was making it easier for parents to ban books and out LGBTQ students. No. The bill passed narrowly, 213 to 208. There were a couple of Republicans who voted against it, but every Democrat voted against it. Every single Democrat thought that having parents involved in the life of their children was a bad thing. And it went on and on and on. And then there's this in the woke world. The World Athletics Organization has banned transgender women from competing for now.
The Council has agreed to exclude male to female transgender athletes who have been through male puberty from female world ranking competitions from March the 31st this year. However, in order to do further research into our transgender eligibility guidelines, we will be establishing a working group whose remit will be to consult specifically with transgender athletes to seek views on competing in athletics, to review and maybe commission additional research where there is currently limited research, and to put forward recommendations to Council.
Well, and so what they're basically doing there is they're saying that we're not going to let people who are biologically male compete as women. And then they said, but, just to make sure that we're fair about it, we're going to set up a blue ribbon panel. A blue ribbon panel is where ideas go to die. World Athletics, of course, is the international governing body for track and field athletics. It doesn't affect all sports by any means, according to hotair.com. It does establish a precedent that other sports bodies can use to push back against the current insane policies that have become common in the world of sports. So we'll watch that one very closely. Just a little bit of what's happening in the woke world today. It is now 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 4:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We're looking at clouds and 68 degrees on Music Row. We'll have traffic and weather coming right up. Multiple law enforcement agencies are trying to track down an inmate from the Rutherford County Adult Detention Center who apparently just walked away from a Murfreesboro work detail earlier today. According to the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office, Matthew Kinnemer, 41 years of age, of Murfreesboro, was last seen around 1:15 today working at the detention center grounds on New Salem Highway. Authorities said that Kinnemer, who's serving time for a probation violation, is believed to be wearing jeans, but they think he discarded his orange shirt. If you see Kinnemer, you're asked not to approach him. Instead, just call 911. Here is today's money news.
From ABC News, Wall Street now. Stocks shook off some early jitters to close higher for the session. The Dow rose 132 points. The Nasdaq added 37, and the S&P closed up 21. Investors were spooked early on when shares of Deutsche Bank, Germany's largest lender, fell sharply, sending new fears about the health of the global financial system throughout the market. It's been 2 weeks since Silicon Valley Bank collapsed, with Signature following a few weeks later, and about a week since UBS announced it would take over Credit Suisse. Ford says a new assembly plant being built in western Kentucky will be able to build up to 500,000 electric pickup trucks per year once the facility is in full production by 2025. That plant and a joint venture battery factory at the same site will employ about 6,000 people. France is banning the use of TikTok on Twitter, Instagram, and other apps on government employees' phones, with very few exceptions, citing concerns about data security.
That is Daria Albinger again with today's Money News. That is the latest news, traffic and weather on the way. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, it's backed by a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
Hey, listen, today is the start of the big Cub Cadets Power More sale over at DT McCall's. It's that time of year, actually, man. I tell you what, got to get out there and work in the yard, but you need good outdoor equipment to do it. And that's why they had the spring Cub Cadet Mower sale going on at the Lebanon store starting today, running all the way through April 1st. You may not know it, but DT McCall & Sons is ranked as a top Cub Cadet dealer in the United States. They have Cub Cadet riding mowers of all different kinds of size, even the small Cub Cadet walk-behind mowers if you have a smaller lot. And when you purchase a Cub Cadet mower from DT McCall's, you get access to their in-house service department. Nearly impossible to find better mower service anywhere else in the country like this. So with a large selection of Cub Cadet mowers, free delivery, and in-house service department, it's an easy choice. And let me just add my personal note here. I very much love my Cub Cadet mower that I got from DT McCall's. It's a ZT2 zero-turn mower. And I tell you, it's like one of the finest pieces of equipment that I have ever owned. Listen, find out about their 5 convenient locations. And remember, the Cub Cadet Mower Sale now, today, through April 1st at the Lebanon store. Learn more at dtmccalls.com. Well, it's 38 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. And we have reached that time in our work week where we stop and do something that I really enjoy. It's a chance for you to sound off, tell me what's on your mind. A little thing we like to call Phone Your Farb Friday.
Tell me what's on your mind. I want to know what you're thinking.
That's right. What's on your mind? 615-737-9986. This is your opportunity to step up on our 100,000-watt soapbox and express yourself within boundaries, because it is, of course, a family show. Maybe you have a bee in your bonnet. Maybe you have a burr in your saddle. Maybe you have a bug in a place where, I hope you never have a bug. Hey. That's right. That would be bad, wouldn't it? Again, we love having you get on the line, say what's on your mind. Maybe you got a question for me. Maybe you take umbrage with something that you've heard on the program, or maybe you just have a question, and we call that Stump the Chump. Can you stump the chump? 615-737-9986. Really, honestly, this is, I think, one of my favorite parts of the week, because I really do enjoy the interaction. And by the way, let me just say, while we're waiting on the calls to get logged in here, that we would love to see you out in Murfreesboro, where we have this thing going on with all the talents. You definitely want to come out there and join us for that. On the 30th, and you can still get tickets at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. How about Joseph and Murfreesboro? Let's start with Joseph if we could. Hello, Joseph. You're on with Brian on the drive.
Hey, Brian. I just wanted to kind of say, I have a small bee in my bonnet about people saying that we should ban TikTok, and let me tell you why.
Okay.
Because if you ever have read a privacy agreement for anything like, this is my privacy policy, this is the stuff that you click yes to, but you never freaking read it. They all do the same thing, and the only reason that people are saying that the Chinese Communist Party could actually compel them is because they're owned by China. But technically, they can only do it. They can only access it by international data law. International laws regarding data, it's only around the country where the data resides. So basically, there is no chance, because everything is owned by Oracle, that U.S. data will end up in the Chinese Communist Party's hands.
Well, actually, yesterday in the hearing, the CEO admitted that there is U.S. information that is held on servers inside China. He said so. He admitted that in the hearing. And he said it's there.
That's a thing, but the data is subject to the company the country regarding where that data sits.
Well, hold on, but so you're saying you trust the Chinese to follow the law?
No, but at the same time, I think that banning TikTok is not a proper use of the First Amendment. I think that honestly, the First Amendment should be there, but also what we should do is actually put proper regulations around the usage of data, and because technically, you could get around. Say TikTok didn't even do this, right? Like say they sold it, right, or we banned them. And they had to just come off the market of data. The fact is that there's still external data brokers, which Facebook, Twitter, and all of them could be compelled to actually.
Listen, Joseph, I hear you, and I've given you a lot of time to express your point, and I think you make a good point. I don't trust the Chinese, and here's what I would say that something that you and I are not. Have not been privy to, and that is that there have been classified briefings for any member of Congress who wanted them to lay out why the government believes. I mean, you're talking about the FBI. Well, okay, I understand, but I mean virtually every intelligence agency, and you got people on our side of the equation. I mean, I really don't like the idea of doing something that seems to go against the First Amendment, but they've all been. Subject to getting these classified briefings that tell them things that they can't say in public. It was interesting yesterday in that hearing that it was not a Republican issue. It was not a Democrat issue. It was a bipartisan issue. And it seems to me that what they have heard in these classified briefings gives them real pause. Look, I think reasonable people can disagree on this, but when it comes to TikTok, I think that you really do run the risk of having your information looked at by the Chinese. And again, he admitted it's on servers in China, and he didn't deny that, and he actually did confirm it. So I don't know, but I appreciate your call, and you are well informed. And I would take one of your points and agree with it. We really should look at those agreements. We just click on them and move on. And I think sometimes when we do that, we are giving them basically the keys to the castle, and perhaps we ought to stop and think about it. All right, listen, I'm moving on. By the way, a couple of phone lines open, 615-737-9986. Jim in Franklin, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Jim?
All right.
Hey, Jim, you're up. But Jim went away. Jim just hung up on me. I heard Jim, and then he went away. How about Steve in Cookville? Steve, hello, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Steve?
Hey, Brian, your take, please, on the latest on the Durham report. I'll hang up and listen off the air.
I haven't seen anything. I mean, I just, because I saw that you were going to ask this question during the commercial break, I looked up the latest story that I could find. Comes from February 10th. Is what I've got. Do you have something more? Well, you hung up already. That's all I said. Basically, it seems like it's winding down, and the people that are in the Department of Justice now. This is all set up by William Barr, so a lot of people that are in the Justice Department now under the Biden administration are throwing a lot of shade on everything that's going on over there, it sounds like it didn't go very far. Didn't go as far as everybody hoped. If you have more information, come back to me at 4:35 or 5:35, and let's revisit this because I have not seen anything new on that. How about, let's see. How about if we go to Bill in Chapel Hill? Bill, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Bill?
Good morning, or excuse me, good afternoon.
Hey.
I believe I have a solution for the fentanyl problem.
Okay.
It seems that we have a inordinate number of dirt bags on death row. Why don't we take the fentanyl that we confiscate and use it to send them to the promised land?
Well, because they have this little thing called due process, which I think takes way too long.
They're on death row.
Yeah.
And they're scheduled to be, so kill them.
Okay. All right, Bill. Thank you for that. I greatly appreciate it. How about John in Murfreesboro? John, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, John?
Hi. I just wanted to say that when
information came out yesterday from the Congressional Budget Office talking about taking away disability payments from veterans to help balance the budget. And I can say from yesterday that I know a lot of veterans have called our state representatives and council representatives about this. And I just want to put it out there. We found out that the VA secretary will not do that, but it was in the process of being looked at. So I just wanted to put that out there for any veterans that were listening and found out that their disability checks are not going to be lowered or a means test taken to help balance the budget. So I want to put that out there for you, Brian.
I appreciate that information. It would be a political suicide to do that. I would tell you right now, if you were to do that in an election cycle, it would not go well because people care about veterans. People want to see veterans treated well. And I had not seen that story. It's funny, everybody in their own world has their own very special interest, and I know that, as a veteran, that's probably really important to you. That's what I would say is, make sure that you share that stuff with us so that we can, give us a link or something if something's important to you during the week that maybe I didn't see. I mean, I've got a lot of sources and places that I look, but I will always take the help and advice of the audience on stories that are important to them. Gary in Lebanon, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Gary?
Hi, yeah, about vote harvesting. Every time I watch the results of an election, the Republican is way ahead on election day, and then 2 or 3 days later, when they count all these votes, he loses.
Right.
I've heard in Pennsylvania, like Fetterman, I heard that Oz was ahead, and then they brought in like 600,000 mail-in ballots, and all of a sudden Fetterman won. And I'm really worried about 2024. That all these states have these, some of them 2 months early voting.
Right.
And, if you have 1,000 paid people by Soros or whoever, and each one of those brings in 1,000 or 1,500, and they throw away the 500 for the Republican, that's 1 million votes for the Democrat.
The vote harvesting.
Yeah,
I hear you. And the vote harvesting thing is something that I think Republicans. One of the things they learned from the last election cycle is that where it is allowed, for sure, Republicans have got to get into that game, they've got to get into that game in a big way. Now, I think it happens in places where it's not legal as well. And I think that we need to figure out ways that we can keep an eye on that. Some of the voting box they would sort of stake out some of the places where where votes could be turned in, and I think that's a good thing. Keeping an eye on that for sure. But really, honestly, we have always said, Republicans generally show up on election day. We've got to make sure that, sometimes you get to election day and you get busy. Things, I intended to go vote, but I didn't get out there. So we need to make sure that we're voting early as well. I don't like early voting as a rule because I actually like to get all of the facts that are going to be in evidence before I make my decision. And if you vote early and then something comes along and you want to change your vote, you can't. It's done. Too late. I want those options to the last minute. But I think, honestly, if you know pretty much where you're going to go and there's not much ever out there that's going to change your mind, then we need to get into the habit of doing that and having them in places where vote harvesting is allowed. We need to get into that game in a big way. And I think what I'm hearing and what I'm reading is folks are starting to do that. All right, that's it for now. Do another round of Phone Your Farb Friday coming up in the next hour. It's 4:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
A radioactive water leak at a Minnesota nuclear power plant, and the governor of Kentucky vetoes a controversial transgender bill. Those stories and more coming up at 5 o'clock. I'm Jay Harper on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, very quickly, want to mention that I'm going to be in studio on Tuesday because I'm really looking forward to our interview with Nate Bargatze, famed Tennessee comedian. He's going to be our special guest on the Tuesday 28th. And, of course, I'll be down at Murfreesboro starting at 3 o'clock for the big station event with all the talent, and we use that term loosely.
Very loosely.
At the Parthenon Grill, so, be sure and get your tickets for that if you haven't already. Coming up in the next hour, we'll talk about what's going on in Syria. Our troops were attacked. And also a mandate for vaccines has been struck down. And another exciting edition of Phone Your Farb Friday. It's all coming up in the next hour. 58 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. Let me talk to you about Sylvan Health, a personalized nutrition service covered by insurance. How does that work? Okay, well, listen up. First, let's talk about nutrition. It can improve the way you feel. It can help you lose weight. It can manage health conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol. All of these things are directly related to the foods that we eat, and this is where Sylvan comes in. The Sylvan Healthcare will connect you with a registered dietitian to help put together a nutrition plan for you without forcing you to cut all the foods that you love. Your dietitian will provide tools such as a meal plan, shopping list, restaurant guides. You see, a few small tweaks to your diet can go a very long way. Appointments are done via video calls or ring right on the phone. You don't have to go into face-to-face meetings. And here's the best part. The service is covered by insurance. That's right. 90% of patients have zero out-of-pocket costs. So schedule your appointment today, 833-279-5826, or visit sylvanhealth.com. That's SYLVAN health.com, and take that first step toward looking and feeling better through the power of nutrition.
It is 5:01 on your Friday afternoon, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. It's 68 degrees with clouds. There's a severe weather threat later on tonight. We'll have the complete weather forecast as well as traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Radioactive water leak from a Minnesota nuclear power plant for the second time in less than 6 months.
About 400,000 gallons of water with radioactive material leaked from an Xcel Energy facility late last year in Monticello. This week, the company said it discovered another leak in a temporary fix at that plant. And while there's no risk to the public, it'll be shut down so permanent repairs can be made. This leak was announced a day after it was discovered and likely amounted to hundreds of gallons of radioactive water. State regulators say they're monitoring the groundwater and they'll inform the public if there's any risk.
That's Brian Clark reporting. News Channel 5 is reporting that Governor Andy Beshear from Kentucky has vetoed a sweeping Republican measure aimed at regulating the lives of transgender youths. The bill would ban their access to gender-affirming health care and would determine which bathrooms they use at school. The bill easily cleared the GOP-led legislature by veto-proof margins. Lawmakers will reconvene next week for the final 2 days of this year's session when they could vote to override that veto. The President, Joe Biden, today speaking to a joint session of the Canadian Parliament in Ottawa. He addressed lawmakers and dignitaries in the House of Commons. White House correspondent for ABC, Karen Travers, has the latest.
President Biden said in an address to the Canadian Parliament that the world needs the U.S. and Canada working together.
Nowhere is that more obvious than in our united response to Russia's brutal aggression against Ukraine.
The president accused Russia of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity and said the U.S. and Canada continue to make clear their commitment to the NATO alliance and will defend every inch of NATO territory.
Once again, that's Karen Travers reporting. In states with capital punishment, a bygone method of execution may be coming back. Here's ABC's Dave Packer.
With many pharmaceutical companies now barring the use of their drugs in execution, states are looking to more antiquated methods. Idaho lawmakers passing a bill this week which authorizes firing squads joining Mississippi, Utah, Oklahoma, and South Carolina. And while firing squads may seem less humane than lethal injection, Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor is among those saying it's actually a more humane method. A study of U.S. executions from 1890 to 2010 finding over 7% of lethal injections went wrong, with some prisoners writhing in pain, while not a single firing squad execution during that time was botched.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are upcoming. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Good afternoon, 8 minutes after the hour of 5 o'clock. We're still cranking here on Friday, the 24th day of March. Man, we're glad that you're here with us on this Friday. They had a nice little shower came through earlier today. I don't know. And then I just walked outside for a moment. Very nice, very pleasant over in Grogu's garden right next door. But then I hear that later tonight, we need to be weather aware, one eye on the sky, and be weather aware as this other front starts to come through, or this next band of rain comes through. Potentially could be. Well, I read a thing today said you could get 6 inches of rain in some areas, and the potential for some severe weather. So let's watch it. Be weather aware, okay? Now, a couple of things are happening this afternoon. I had not heard about this story. Interesting. This comes out of, it has to do between a women's basketball game between Memphis and Bowling Green. Have you heard this? This is WNIT Invitational Tournament, Women's National Invitational Tournament. Apparently there was a game between Memphis and Bowling Green, and Memphis guard Jamira Schutz has been charged with assault for allegedly punching Bowling Green player Alyssa Brett. This is one of those things where they're all lined up at the end of the game, and handshakes are supposed to happen. This is a moment where you're supposed to, exhibit the signs of good sportsmanship. Well, apparently, according to the video and according to the police, Jamira Schutz took a pop, just popped Alyssa Brett right in the eye as they lined up for handshakes after the game. And now the Bowling Green State University Police Department has issued a press release confirming that Schutz, a fifth-year player, was charged after the unwarranted physical contact involving Brett at the conclusion of the game. This is one that Bowling Green won 73-60. Violence is never acceptable, and our priority remains the health, safety, and support of the student-athlete who is recovering and doing well. An active investigation in conjunction with the city of Bowling Green and their prosecutor, and no further comment is available at this time. Wow. That's sad. I mean, come on. It's basketball, folks. House GOP chairs have sounded an alarm on what they call an unprecedented process to discipline the Border Patrol agents involved in the so-called Whipgate saga. This one chaps me because, if you know anything, if you've been on a horse, if you have any understanding of what horsemen do and how they conduct themselves and how they train, then you knew from the very beginning that there was no there there. So, remember, we had this situation. It was down in Del Rio at the International Bridge. And all of the people were starting to show up, and they built this little tent city, and they built this little city underneath the bridge. And it was the first time that the border situation had a real image that just sort of resonated with people. People, by the thousands living under this bridge. And the Biden administration was absolutely apoplectic about the picture, the image, because, up until that point, there had never been a picture that really told the entire story and told you how big the situation was. And they desperately wanted that picture to go away. And so, if you remember what they did is they came in and they cleaned it all out and said, no, you can't be under this bridge. But before that, they told the Border Patrol, go out there and make sure that nobody else comes across the river because we don't want more people coming into this encampment because it looks bad. So they sent the Border Patrol mounted police out there. And the mounted police did what the mounted police are supposed to do. They blocked with their horses people from coming across the river. It was what they were told to do by their superiors. But there was the swinging of the reins and the twirling of the reins, which, if you know anything at all about, what it is to ride a horse, you know that, when you're in a situation like that, and this is the way they train, you twirl your reins. You didn't use them as a whip. They were twirling the reins in order to keep people back far enough that they would not get trampled by the horse. In other words, they were trying to make sure they didn't get hurt, But some people looked at the twirling of the reins and they said, they're whipping those people. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. There was no evidence of that whatsoever. But the president saw it, and he thought he knew better, and he said, oh, those people, I'm going to make sure that they pay for that. They're going to pay for that. Well, when they got in and did a little research, they found out, well, they hadn't done anything wrong. They were just simply following the training procedures that they had been taught. You know, it's just what it was, ignorant people looking at something and not understanding what it was. Now comes word, this is the new development. 3 chairmen, Republican chairmen in the House, have written, this is Jim Jordan, James Comer, and Tennessee's own Mark Green, have written a letter to the acting commissioner at the Border Patrol, Troy Miller, and saying, look, we are hearing that the disciplinary action, I thought it was over, but apparently it's not. The disciplinary action the agents will face over the incident may not be decided by the Border Patrol chief or the supervisor or a sector chief, but instead may be determined by a senior executive with no experience in Border Patrol or law enforcement. What I read into that is they're talking about a political appointee who is not part of the law enforcement chain of command here. We are concerned that if CBP pursues this course, it will result in an uninformed and potentially unfair disciplinary decision. I hope that this gets their attention, that they get called out. Photographs from the incident were misinterpreted by reporters, and some Democrats. And they claimed that the agents were whipping the migrants, which was absolutely 1,000% not what was going on. And the eventual investigation confirmed that the agents were using reins to control their horses, were not carrying whips, and did not whip anyone. But the president had said, oh, I'll make them pay. I'll make sure that they pay for that. And Kamala Harris compared the incident to tactics used during the times of slavery, a complete overreaction. Look, you know, I smell a rat here. It's been taken out of the chain of command, which is where this decision should be made, by people who understand what it is to do this job and are aware of the kind of training they went through, and it's about to be put in the hand of someone who is a political appointee. And I think we all know how this is going to turn out if it goes forward like that. Hopefully, the 3 chairmen raising concerns about this will change people's plans here at the Border Patrol. I sure hope so. Very quickly, we had an attack against American interests in Syria. They were actually able, the Iranian-backed rebels that we're watching out there, were apparently able to fly an Iranian drone right into a base, crash land it, and kill one person, and a number of other people were seriously injured. This came up today at the Pentagon briefing. What happened? How were they able to do that? We have all kinds of sophisticated technology that's supposed to protect our troops from an air attack like this. Here's how that went down today.
Can you say whether or not any of the radars or aerostats or anything that are there either failed or were not operating? Is there adequate protection there now? How did the drone pierce the security of that base?
Broadly speaking, for operation security reasons, I'm not going to get into the specifics in terms of the types of force protection capabilities we have in our facilities, other than to say we take force protection very, very seriously. I will say, as it pertains to radar, my understanding is that there was a complete sight picture in terms of radar.
Okay, now, a complete sight picture as it pertains to radar means the radar was working. They could see what was going on, but still, it was Jennifer Griffin with Fox News, I think one of the best on the beat, honestly. She's so good. Who asked the question, sort of got down to the basics. Okay, she wanted to know, did they crash the drone or did the drone fire a rocket? Now, if you're trying to defend against a rocket, it moves very fast, hard to defend against. A drone, not so much. It moves pretty slow. So how were they able to do this if the radar, as you say, was working properly?
Did it crash into the facility or fire a weapon at the facility?
It did not fire a weapon, to my knowledge.
So if you say the radar was working and if you were tracking it and drones don't fly that quickly, how is it that it was able to crash into the base? And you say that you're protecting those bases.
Look, again, this is a dangerous part of the world. The work that we do is inherently dangerous. That's why you have the military in these types of places conducting these type of operations. We've seen rocket attacks, mortar attacks in the past from these kinds of groups. Again, CENTCOM will do an assessment in terms of the attack, but the fact is that these IRGC-backed groups conducted this attack, and unfortunately we had an American killed.
Why wasn't there a contingency to shoot down the drone if it was coming into the base?
Again, look, we take a variety of measures to safeguard our people, but again, it's an inherently dangerous place, and again, we'll look into the details of the actual attack.
I don't understand why we don't have an answer to that. I don't know. I wasn't there, okay, and I'm willing to cut people some slack, but if the radar was working, they should have been able to see the drone coming. How is it that we weren't able to take out the drone, a relatively slow-moving piece of equipment in the air, before it got and did its damage? Now, that happened at 1:38 yesterday afternoon local time, and the United States responded with a strike on some of these positions where the Iranian-backed fighters are. 2 American airstrikes killed at least 8 Iranian fighters, and then they retaliated by lobbing some rockets. I mean, these are just very inaccurate rockets. Didn't come close to hurting anybody. Nobody was harmed in their. But that's just. Well, they came and they just killed a bunch of our people. We got to do something, so they lobbed some rockets just to show that they were doing something. I don't know what's happening now. The real question is how did a drone get through, and I think there'll be some investigation of that matter. But I don't understand. I honestly don't understand how you do not have an answer to that question. 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, listen, what is Everseal? Have you heard about it? Well, it is it's a technology that's been around actually for a lot of years, used in industrial applications. And it protects concrete and wood in a really amazing way. And the folks over at Everseal have figured out a way how to do this at your home or in your business in a way that you can actually afford it. Now, here's how it works. The process starts by deep cleaning all the way down to make sure your wood or concrete looks as good as it possibly can look. And then they put their patented seal, which absorbs all the way through and actually becomes a permanent part of your wood or concrete. And it will prevent further deterioration. Are you ready for this? 30 to 50 years. 30 to 50 years. It's guaranteed for 25. Now, think about this for a moment. How much effort do you put into protecting and sealing your deck, for example, or the concrete around your home, around the pool deck, or, whatever, what kind of masonry? You probably pay a lot of money year after year after year. Think of what it would cost you over 10 years. Think of what it would cost you over 15 years. Think what it would cost you over 25 years. Why not do it one time, and instead of having to slave each year to go through this whole entire process, only have to do it again the very next year? How about you just do it one time and forget it? Sound like something that makes a lot of sense? I think it does. Why don't you reach out to my friend Steve Nelson and the team over at Everseal? Here's the number, 1-844-EVER-USA. That's 1-844-EVER-USA. Learn more at ever-seal.com.
Earlier today, an attorney for former President Donald Trump appeared before the grand jury investigating whether Trump mishandled classified documents. And President Joe Biden has had a very busy day north of the border. We'll tell you all about that at 5:30. I'm Jay Harper on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, I love this thing that Biden did. I mean, he's in Canada. But apparently, he's speaking to the Canadian Parliament, and they were very polite. The Canadians are very, very polite. But he's speaking to the Canadian Parliament, and I'm not making this up. He said the following. See, here we go.
So today, I applaud China for stepping up. Excuse me, I applaud Canada.
I mean, come on. Do you not know where you are? He did say that apparently, the whole Chinese thing is on his mind a lot these days.
You can tell what I'm thinking.
Well, that means that the Chinese have gotten in his head, and so I don't know. I mean, honestly, you had one job there, Joe. Read the teleprompter, and remember that you're in Canada, not in China. Not too much to ask. This story the other day, it came out yesterday late, and I want to make sure that we talk about it. A federal court has rejected one of Biden's vaccine mandates for federal workers. Now, this is interesting. President Biden's COVID-19 vaccine mandate for federal employees was blocked Thursday in a federal appeals court. Excuse me. U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit Court in New Orleans reversed an earlier opinion from a three-judge panel of the Fifth Circuit. So they had one of what they call a rare en-banc hearing where all justices who are in the appeals court in the Fifth Circuit were able to hear the complete argument. At a rare en-banc rehearing, the full court rejected the government's argument that courts don't have jurisdiction over pre-enforcement challenges to Biden's vaccine mandate. The effect of the court's decision is to uphold a preliminary injunction issued by a federal judge in January of 2022 that blocked the mandate. Now, at the time, the Biden administration said that nearly 98% of covered employees had already been vaccinated, but a judge in January 22 said he didn't have the authority to force that, and now a full en-banc rehearing of the case before the Fifth Circuit Court in New Orleans agrees with the earlier judge's ruling. So a panel has briefly had, there it is. It's over. Now, there are other things that are going to be considered here. And by the way, the president is going to apparently, I read this here, I've got it somewhere. Yeah. The White House announcement has been that the COVID emergency will end on May 11th. And the question is, do other mandates that still have withstood legal scrutiny, will they be dropped then? I think the other question I have is, when they no longer have declared a COVID emergency, can they go forward with this stupid plan that will never stand up to constitutional scrutiny to pay off student loan debt? See, they're doing that under a provision of the law because they say, well, we're in the middle of an emergency. We can do this now. Well, if the emergency ends on May 11th, as they say it's going to, then how in the world can they then still make the case that they should they want to reimburse people for their college educations and their student loans? I don't think that's going to withstand. I mean, it was going to go down hard in the Supreme Court anyway, I think, the way it looked. But I think it's very interesting to see whether that thing survives or not, or basically they withdraw it saying, well, the point is moot. There's no emergency. So we don't need the high court to rule. I hope the high court rules just to disabuse the Biden administration that they don't have the ability to do these things by executive order or by executive fiat, that they have to actually follow the law. And in this particular case, the law required that Congress make that decision, not the president. 30 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 5:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. 69 degrees with some clouds on Music Row. We do have that severe weather threat overnight, a complete weather forecast, as well as traffic coming up in just a couple of minutes. An attorney for former President Trump spent more than 3 hours in front of the grand jury investigating whether Trump mishandled classified documents.
Trump attorney Evan Corcoran did not answer any questions from reporters as he left the courthouse. Sources familiar tell ABC News the special counsel subpoenaed Corcoran to testify about a document he drafted, which was signed by another Trump attorney, certifying that all classified materials in Trump's possession had been turned over to the DOJ. That certification was later found to be false, prompting the FBI to search Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate where more than 100 classified documents were retrieved. Trump has denied any wrongdoing.
A very busy afternoon for President Joe Biden during a visit to Canada today. First, Mr. Biden addressed the Canadian Parliament in the House of Commons. After that, he held a press conference with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, during which China was often mentioned. Here's ABC's national correspondent Terry Moran.
China, President Biden said a couple of times, is not going to be the future in terms of manufacturing or in terms of the values that Xi Jinping has essentially stood for in the world.
Biden's visit is the first by a sitting U.S. president in a non-summit situation in more than 2 decades. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are on the way. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, let me talk to you about McGill's world-famous Glock store. I mean, honestly, have you been down to this place? I just can't implore you enough. You need to make a visit. It's an amazing place, 35,000 square feet. Everything is shiny. Everything is new. And by the way, they've got everything that you could want if you're interested in the 2A lifestyle or you want to do some practice back there and get some training. It's just a great place. Cabana wife and I went down there, and honestly, I've talked about it endlessly. She just stomped me like a mud hole. I mean, she was so good at what she did, and I needed some work. But we got some training, really good training, by the way, and over the course of an hour, I got a lot better, and so did she. She's still a better shot than I am. Well, listen, we had a great deal of fun. And if you want to do this with your significant other or some member of your family, what a great idea, right? For an afternoon of fun down at the Glock store. That's right. Here's what you do. You just call this number, 615-682-6565, 615-682-6565, or alternatively, you can book it at shoot270.com and click on the link that says book a shooting session. It's very easy. You're going to have a great time, and you're going to get some great training in the process. Only at McGill's world-famous Glock store, minutes from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
It's 37 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. On Friday, we have a little tradition that we have here on this program is at 4:35 and about 5:35 or so, we do a little thing we like to call Phone Your Farb Friday.
Tell me what's on your mind. I want to know what you're thinking.
You know the number, 615-737-9986. We would love to have you join us. If you got a question, you got a comment, if you've got something you're just dying to know, or you got a question for me, it's 615-737-9986. I mean, maybe you've got a bee in your bonnet. Maybe you have a burr in your saddle. Maybe you have a bug in a place where I hope actually you don't never have a bug. But you can climb right up on our 100,000-watt soapbox and ask anything that's on your mind. Anything. It doesn't matter. 615-737-9986. Now, we got a lot of lines open today, and if you're a first-time caller, that would be great. I love having first-time callers. So get busy, folks. We got a half hour to fill here. All right? I want to know what's on your mind. 615-737-9986, as we call it, Phone Your Farb Friday. All right, let's go with Jeff in Murfreesboro. Jeff, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Jeff?
Hello, Brian. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you. I learned about this very disturbing fact several years ago, and you can look it up better explained on a website called geoengineeringwatch.org.
Okay. All right.
All one word, geoengineering.
What is it? Let's get to the point here.
Okay. The point is that the trails that airplanes leave sometimes, the big airplanes,
right?
Boeing explains them as condensation trails. The condensation trails dissipate within 15 seconds behind the plane when they do not dissipate, when they create these long lines and they hover and they spread and they become actually milky white clouds, basically covering the sky when they do
what are
enough
they?
of them. They're chemicals. They are chemicals that NASA has 150 different patents on them.
Okay,
150 patents
listen,
on these chemicals.
I'm gonna have to look this up. I mean, I have heard this, and many people say it's a conspiracy theory. You believe this stuff?
Yes, sir, and it's provable. You can look up on U.S. patent laws, NASA chemicals, aerosols that are sprayed in the sky, and they're right there. They're right
All
there.
right.
It's easy to find them.
All right. Well, I'll look into it and I'll see what I come up with there. Thank you for the call, though, Jeff. Greatly appreciate it. Logan in Mount Juliet, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Logan?
Hey, Brian. I tried to call in the other day. You were talking about people's definitions for wokeness.
Oh, yeah. We talked about, how do you define it? And I had a little essay that I wrote where I explained how I defined it. By the way, you can still go back and find that at yourfarb.com. So what's your definition there, Logan?
So I didn't really have a definition. It was more of an acronym.
Okay.
So my acronym is Without Observable Key Education.
Yeah, listen, I'm telling you, this woke thing, I think that the real thing we're going to be talking about in this upcoming presidential election cycle, it's going to be a battle over the woke versus the non-woke. It's really what it's going to come down to. And that's why I'm spending so much time these days with the woke world reports, because I think these kinds of things are going to be the division points upon which we are that we make our decisions about how we're going to vote, etc. in this country. So, yeah, the battle is on, and the battle lines have been drawn. How about Brian in Murfreesboro? Same topic. Hello, Brian. You're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Brian?
Well, Brian, we're talking about wokeness. The VA has gone woke because Abe Lincoln is misogynistic, because their mission statement was to talk about helping those who borne the battle, his widow and his orphan, and it was non-inclusive of women, so they just changed it to be a gender-neutral mission statement for the VA, because Abe Lincoln promised to take care of those who borne the battle, his widow and his orphan.
So they've changed Lincoln's mandate, is what you're saying.
They still have his mandate. They just reworded it to be gender inclusive.
Well, listen, I'm telling you,
last week.
Throughout the administration, they have packed every single agency of the federal government with people who are looking to make these kinds of changes. Big, small, big, little stuff, big stuff. It doesn't matter. They are taking full advantage of while they have the levers of government to try to fundamentally change America with their agenda. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. How about Ricky in Watertown? Ricky, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Ricky?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm well. What's up, Ricky?
On the TikTok deal.
Yeah.
To my understanding, they will not allow Facebook or Twitter or anything like that anywhere, correct?
I'm sorry, I won't allow it where?
In China.
Oh, I guess I don't know. I guess that might be true.
I've heard that. I'd have to ask them, how is it you think we ought to allow your deal over here and you won't allow our deal over there?
Listen, I'm telling you right now, get ready, because the hearing the other day revealed that there's a tremendous amount of bipartisan support. The general sense is, and listen, I spent a lot of years up on Capitol Hill. I can read these things. I can see them coming. There's enough support on both sides of the aisle to pass a bill in the House and the Senate, and it may be enough support that it actually will land on the president's desk, and he may not be able to override it. The real concern that the Democrats have about this, that we're at the White House, is not, I mean, I think they understand that it's a national security problem, but I think they're more worried about the elections and how it will hack off, the 30-somethings and the 20-somethings who love TikTok. Will they lose those votes if it's perceived that the White House and the president signed the bill? It'll be interesting to see how this all goes. Okay. Rudy, out on the road. Rudy, you're on with Brian. What do you say, Rudy?
Brian, I'm going to help you out rebutting the contrail believer guy.
Okay.
Because he said NASA was putting this up, they own the rights or whatever, but if you're an airplane guy and you know history, how would he explain the B-17 bombers flying at 40,000 feet and they had contrails and NASA didn't even exist?
Yeah. Listen, contrails have always been there. I think what he says is if the contrail, look, I'm not sure that I even should go down this rabbit hole. He says if the contrails don't evaporate in 15 seconds, it can't be just condensation. I don't know. I've seen them all my life, and they don't dissipate in 15 seconds. Look, I'm looking at this stuff, and there is like page after page after page that calls this a conspiracy theory. Now, look, I've heard things called conspiracy theories that turned out not to be conspiracy theories, but, this one, I don't know. I don't think I can go down the path. I don't think I can join you on that one. But thank you, Rudy. Greatly appreciate it. Mike, and is it South Pittsburgh? Is that like in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Mike?
Oh, no, it's South Pittsburgh, Tennessee, buddy.
Oh, I'm not aware of South Pittsburgh. I'll have to come visit sometime. So what's on your mind today, Mike?
It's right where the Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia lines meet.
Okay, sounds good.
It's actually where Delta makes its turn to fly into Atlanta. Anyway, what amazing... I traveled for a living 25 years. I know. I always waved at my wife, but she never did see me.
Yeah. So what's on your mind?
Well, the hypocrisy of the media. Why let a good crisis go to waste? Okay, they jumped on the Juicy Smollett hoax, and they were proven absolutely totally wrong. Same way with the Paul Pelosi thing.
Right.
And there's a few more other ones out there too. That they just, what astounds me is they refuse to apologize, which tells me where their heart's at.
I've tried to always be very, very careful to get things right when I was a reporter. And now, look, I'm going to be the first to tell you that in the course of a career where you're doing a story every day and you're cranking it out on deadline, you might not get it exactly right. You might not get the nuance right. You might actually, it happens. You can make an honest mistake. But, I don't know. But when I was doing that, if you made an honest mistake, you made a correction. Now, look, if you made too many corrections, you would find yourself without a job. But it was always understood that journalism was never expected to be perfect. And if a mistake was made, the more important thing was making sure you straightened it out for the public. And I always tried to do that. And I never, ever, ever felt bad about walking something back if I felt it was wrong. In fact, if you listen to this program, even today, if I get something wrong, I'll come back and I'll say, I think I might have missed this, or I might have gotten it a little off. Let me revisit it. I don't know why in the world people, don't want to do that anymore. It seems like, they just have decided that they're going to insist on being right even when they are not right. How about Kevin out on the road? Kevin, you're on the road. What's going on, Kevin? What's on your mind today?
Hey, I was just going to give you a signal report, Brian. You talk about climbing up the 100,000-watt tower. Well, I've been on the road from Nashville to Chattanooga. I'm beyond Spencer and maybe 30 minutes from Chattanooga, and you guys are just booming in up here, and you've been solid all the way. So great job to your engineering team on their transmitter and antenna.
Can I just take that as a moment to say, you know what? We have a tremendous engineering team here at Super Talk 99.7. By the way, Cumulus owns 5 different stations here in this market, and the engineering team works for us and the other 4 stations. Of course, they take care of us first because we're the most important of the five. I just want to say that. But nonetheless, I'm teasing. They put up a new transmitter. How long ago was that, Chris? Maybe, a couple of years
Couple
ago?
years, yeah.
And I'm telling you, it's a booming system. I mean, it is booming. It goes all the way down into northern Alabama. It goes all the way well up into Kentucky. And you say you're driving almost out there to Chattanooga. This is a huge, huge signal. And what that means is that we have a lot of reach. There are a lot of people who live in Middle Tennessee outside of the Nashville area who listen to this station religiously. We have a lot of great listeners, and by the way, I think a lot of clout in the conservative world here in Middle Tennessee. If you want to get your ideas across, then you need to be on Super Talk 99.7 because it's a beast of a signal. It really is, and we're happy to have every single one of you listening. I promise you, we are. 51 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Another attack today on U.S. forces in Syria. And the government has a plan to reduce your salt intake. This and more coming your way at 6 o'clock. I'm Jay Harper on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, this story is interesting. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation is conducting a criminal investigation into the operation of the DA's office in Nashville. And they were all over the DA's office today, bringing in all kinds of equipment. I'll tell you what it's all about as best we can figure it out right after the news. It is 58 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. All right, the Sleep Apnea TMJ Solutions Clinic can help you if you're one of these people that, you wake yourself up with your own snoring, or maybe, you keep getting the jab in the middle of the night with that sharp elbow because of your snoring. It's not fair to the other person. Set up an appointment with Dr. Stephen Poss at the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions, 2 locations for your convenience, one in Brentwood, one in Murfreesboro. He makes a customized FDA-approved mouthpiece proven effective in treating mild to moderate cases of sleep apnea. Set up an appointment with Dr. Poss to find out if this will work for you like it has worked for so many other people. Julie put it this way: my husband got his mouthpiece. He basically stopped snoring at night. The bedroom's quieter. I'm sleeping better. He's sleeping better. It's been a win-win. So start getting a good night's sleep. Feel more energized during the day. Contact the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions Clinic at your earliest convenience to set up an appointment with Dr. Poss. Here's the number, 615-850-8445. Learn more at drposs.com.
It is 6:01. Good evening. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. It's 71 degrees with some clouds. We've got a severe weather threat tonight. The complete weather forecast as well as traffic coming up in a few minutes. Another attack today on U.S. forces in Syria. This is the third in 2 days. ABC's Andy Field has the details.
U.S. official reports 2 new attacks on 2 U.S. facilities in Deir ez-Zor, Syria. 3 drones targeting 1 location, 5 rockets fired at another, injuring 1 American service member. The U.S. destroyed 2 of those 3 drones. Comes after a group fired 5 rockets at another U.S. facility. It all began Thursday when an Iranian-backed group's drone crashed and killed an American contractor, injured 5 service members. The U.S. retaliated with airstrikes that Iran claims killed 7 civilians in a food center.
News 2 is reporting that the Metro Nashville Planning Department is asking Davidson County residents to weigh in on each of the 2 draft redistricting maps in order to continue the process. Metro Planning drafted two versions of a potential redistricted county in accordance with the law passed by the Tennessee General Assembly that requires a Metro Council to reduce its size from 40 members. Metro has since filed suit over the law, but while the case has yet to be heard in Davidson County Chancery Court, planning staff are still required to meet a 30-day deadline to comply with the law. That deadline comes on April 10th. Should the court grant Metro an injunction against the law's enforcement, Metro Planning will cease all work immediately while that case is heard. Uncle Sam wants you to cut your salt intake, and it's proposing some rules that will help food companies do just that. ABC's Andy Field has the latest from Washington.
Bite into almost anything, and it's likely loaded with salt. Great for the taste buds, not so much for your heart, which is why the FDA is proposing new rules to let food makers use healthier salt substitutes in items that include cheese, canned vegetables, and dressings. Health experts say they would help lower the rates of high blood pressure and stroke, as many Americans consume 1.5 times the recommended amount of salt each day.
Actress Gwyneth Paltrow took the stand today in a trial involving a 2016 ski accident in Utah. Here's more from ABC's Alex Stone.
Taking the witness stand.
Thank you, Your Honor. We'd like to call Gwyneth Paltrow
to defend herself in the 2016 ski crash. The retired optometrist suing Paltrow claims she was reckless and caused the accident and that he has brain damage and lifelong injuries. Paltrow on the stand denied she was at fault, saying she was the victim.
Because I was hit by Mr. Sanderson and he was at fault.
She told the jury as the crash was unfolding, she thought she was being assaulted. Jurors will have to decide if she was responsible for the crash.
That is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
8 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Holy moly. Boy, this story that is just breaking is very interesting. I mean, we've heard about this. We knew that this was something that was being looked at, but I don't know. This is, as they say, interesante. Very interesting. Yes, I went all Spanish on you there for a moment. Tennessee Bureau of Investigation agents have descended upon Nashville DA's offices as an investigation continues. Dateline from News Channel 5 from the reporter is Phil Williams. Here we go. Tennessee Bureau of Investigation agents and technicians descended upon the offices of District Attorney General Glenn Funk on Friday as part of an ongoing criminal investigation into operations of the DA's office. About a dozen TBI personnel were seen going in and out of Funk's offices in downtown Nashville. Technicians were seen using a device that, according to the manufacturer, is, quote, designed to detect illicit eavesdropping signals. TBI spokesperson Josh Devine tight-lipped about the operation, quote, we can confirm TBI special agents were present today at 222 2nd Avenue North, which includes the office of District Attorney Glenn Funk, working in an official capacity, Devine said in an email statement. We are not able at this time to speak to the nature or scope of efforts at this location. While we understand the public's desire for information, we must at the same time maintain confidentiality for the purpose of investigative integrity. At this time, we have no further information to provide. Devine declined to say whether the activity reflected a consensual search or was the result of a search warrant issued by a judge. Now, you may remember that we've talked about this before. Tennessee Attorney General Jonathan Scarmetti sent a letter to the Nashville Democrat District Attorney notifying him that his office was the subject of a criminal investigation and demanding the preservation of certain evidence. While not precluding other areas of concern, the letter detailed a specific interest by Scarmetti's office into whether anyone on Funk's team violated the state's wiretapping statute by installing listening devices in and around the DA's office in downtown Nashville. The existence of these devices first revealed by News Channel 5. So, that notice came the day after News Channel 5 revealed that Funk's team had installed cameras with microphones in areas around the DA's office capable of picking up conversations of employees and visitors who were not being warned about the audio monitoring. Funk says he's done nothing wrong. So there is that. Whew, that is an interesting thing. So they basically went down there and did a search of his entire office, apparently looking for bugs and listening devices, using some rather sophisticated equipment, it would seem. Wow. That is a hell of a story right there. So, repeating, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation sent a bunch of people down to the office of District Attorney Glenn Funk, Metro Nashville DA, as part of an ongoing criminal investigation into whether or not there were illicit eavesdropping signals or devices that could be found there. That will be interesting to watch in the days ahead. We will stay on top of that again. Big story there by Phil Williams of Channel 5. Here's a story that I haven't had a time to get to today, and by gosh, I think this tells you everything you need to know about the Biden administration and their war on your appliances. I mean, we know that they want to do away with the gas stove, and then the other day they were talking about, all these other things they were going to go after. Here's what you this is the one, by gosh, they may have gone too far this time, that's for sure. What do we revere, Chris Weber, and what do we revere here in the sweltering South, perhaps more than any other thing that we might have in our home?
Air conditioning?
Yes!
That's a no-brainer.
I mean, come on. In fact, it could be argued that the South really exploded, and like places like Atlanta and in Nashville and others, with the advent of air conditioning. Without air conditioning, let's be honest about it, this part of the world would be hard to take.
Wouldn't be much fun in the summer.
I think that I've made this argument before, that perhaps one of the greatest inventions of mankind from time immemorial is the air conditioning system.
Thank you, Mr. Carrier.
Carrier, I think it is, yes. I think that it really is. I mean, and you know what? Air conditioners, I mean, I don't know. I remember, when I grew up, we didn't have, in West Texas, we didn't have refrigerated air or central air. We had evaporative coolers and what we called a swamp box. And the thing was, out there it was a little dry, so, evaporation would work well. Here it wouldn't work at all.
Yeah, too humid, yeah.
Yeah, but honestly, they were big boxes that attached to the side of the house, or some people put them on their roof, and they put water, ran down through the sides and through straw mats, and then they would suck air through them and blow it into the house with a big drum fan, and it would be cool air, and that was our air conditioning. And then later, refrigerated air came along, and I mean, I'm telling, when you put them boxes in the window,
oh yeah.
We thought that was the greatest thing to ever come down the pike when that
Magic.
came along. Oh, my gosh, we would just stand there in front of the refrigerated air box and just, when we were come in all hot and sweaty, just stand there and just luxuriate in the cold air.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now the Biden administration wants to crack down on air conditioners as their war on appliance continues. No good is going to come of this. This is going to be the end of efficient air conditioning as you and I know it. Have you ever known of the government to come in and try to make changes to something that works perfectly fine and made it better? It just doesn't happen, does it?
Not that I can think of. I can think of plenty of examples of the exact opposite.
Yeah, well, let's go through. We've been talking about them, for example. I mean, they messed up the dishwasher. The dishes don't get clean anymore. They're apparently have messed up, I think, in many ways, the washer and the dryer. And, they're not near as efficient as they used to be. We can talk about shower heads.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one. We can talk about low-flow toilets. That's one of my real big bugaboos. I mean, they ruined the toilet. I mean, it used to be the toilet was a magnificent thing that worked efficiently. You didn't have to think about it. But now, I mean, good Lord, they're just not very effective. Let's put it that way. In doing what a toilet's supposed to do, which is get rid of waste.
You have to monitor your deposits.
Sometimes you have to multi-flush. That's right. Come on. Let's be honest about it. Well, now they want to mess with the air conditioner. Biden administration announced its latest appliance regulations this week targeting air conditioners in an action they said would reduce the nation's carbon emissions. Basically what they're going to try to do is they're going to set standards so they won't use as much electricity. But by doing that, what they will do is make them less efficient. This is my fear. Honestly. The regulations unveiled Thursday by the Department of Energy finalize energy efficiency standards for home air conditioning units, window air conditioners, and portable air cleaners. The DOE said the move would cut air pollution and push consumers' costs down by billions of dollars because they're not going to use as much energy ostensibly. I would also argue they will not work. This is never going to, please do not mess with our air conditioning. We here in the South revere and love our air conditioning.
Yeah, things could get ugly.
Come on. I might have to arm wrestle Jennifer Granholm over this one. No, you little elfin woman. Leave my damn air conditioning alone.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I'm so glad that I just replaced all the air conditioning here at Stately Wilson Manor. The Busy Bee people came out and took care of that for me. And I'm telling you, I'm glad. It works great. But I have a feeling that, the next time you need to replace an air conditioner, you're going to be required to put in one of these inefficient, DOE approved air conditioning systems, and it ain't going to work. I mean, I'll give you another one. The little gas cans that we use to fill up our lawnmowers.
Oh, yes.
Oh, come on.
That's awful.
Government has never made any of these things better when they put these new regulations in place. They always make it worse. Universally, they can't point to one thing that they've made better through the implementation of new regulations.
You definitely don't have to worry about spilling the gas because you can't get anything out.
You can't. No, it's irritating. It's irritating. So I am furious about this. This is a step too far. I was pretty upset about them coming after the gas stove.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, they said they weren't going to come against the gas stove, but they said, well, we're just changing the regulations to make them more efficient. It would eliminate 96% of the stoves on the market would not meet the standards, which means they're screwing up the gas stove and they're going to screw up your air conditioning. And I'm telling you, people in America are not going to like it when their air conditioning doesn't get cold.
Sweaty people will unite.
I'm telling you, the South will rise again. My goodness. 20 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing. So you will know how much your care is going to cost before it's actually delivered. I mean, I'll tell you what, that is a thing. That's worth it right there. Smart Care plans start at $69 a month. You get unlimited office visits, free basic labs for the entire year. They treat the entire family as well, even newborns, and they offer family plans as well. In conjunction with a high-deductible insurance plan, this could save you and your family hundreds of dollars. At Grace Point, I mean, this is a wonderful thing. They take their time with each patient. They see you the same or the very next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Grace Point wants you to know they believe strongly in freedom of choice when it comes to vaccines for you and your children. Some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast to Music City year after year after year. Grace Point Healthcare on Main Street in Franklin, 599-6868. It's 599-6868 to schedule a visit.
Another attack on U.S. forces in Syria, and we'll wrap up today's money news. This all coming up at 6:30. I'm Jay Harper on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Interesting story in the Tennessean here. There is as you know, the state legislature has passed a bill, signed into law by the governor, says you have to cut the size of the Metro Council, and so you can have no more than 20 members. And so there's apparently they've begun working on a couple of different. Now they're challenging it in court. I don't think it's going to win, but they're now starting to also lay out, well, how would we go about that? And there are two different scenarios at play right now: 15 council districts with 5 at-large members, or 17 council districts with 3 at-large members. And they're going through the whole process now, trying to figure out exactly where the lines would be. They say that they're trying to do, they're using some sophisticated software, and they have several things that they're trying to make sure does not happen. Like we don't, disenfranchise any particular group of voters who have representation now. But there you have it. I mean, will we have 15, regular council members and 5 at-large, or 3 at-large council members? Those 3 would be, I would think, pretty powerful. I mean, they would be very powerful, it would seem, as compared to someone who just represents. And by the way, if you go to the 17 districts with 3 council members, each council member would serve about just a little under 50,000 constituents in Nashville. That's pretty interesting. And they go through and they try to explain without, they've got maps, I think, probably, but they explain about, how this would all lay out. And that conversation is now happening in a big way in Nashville. I think probably they're going to take it to the court and they're going to make their best case. But I think the state, my sense of it is the state legislature, was on good ground here, good legal ground in suggesting this. And, well, not suggesting, mandating it. And while the district council may not like the idea of going from 40 to 20, I think it makes a lot of sense. And quite frankly, if you really think about it, it does make a lot of sense. Having 40 members for a town this size is completely unwieldy. If you remember, they were the 3rd largest council in the country, behind cities like Los Angeles and other major metropolitan areas. So, cutting it down to 20 makes sense for the size of community that you have. And, they may not like it because some people are going to, clearly you got 40 people, 20 people are going to find themselves without seats. That's just going to happen. But I think in the grand scheme of things, it will become a much more manageable form of government. And if I were a mayor, I would love this. I mean, they can't say that they do, but I mean, imagine being a mayor and having to deal with 40 people, or being a mayor and having to deal with 20 people to get your things across the goal line. Seems like to me you'd want to have fewer people to have to deal with. That's the way it feels to me. But it'll be interesting to watch and see how that plays out here in the next few days. Now, coming up in the last half hour of our program here today, I want to revisit the shade that is being thrown in the direction of Kamala Harris, and there's some very sort of a real buzz around Washington right now over an article in which unnamed people within the Biden administration are saying not too flattering things about the current vice president of the United States as they get ready to start this whole process now and run for re-election. I mean, what a mess the Democrats have in trying to figure out how they're going to. I mean, you got a guy who's 80-year-old, and the number 2 person is not thought of in very high terms by the general public or by other Democrats now, apparently, according to this story. And we will get into that as well. Let's call it 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 6:29, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got clouds, 71 degrees on Music Row, severe weather in tonight's forecast. We'll have that weather forecast for you later on after the newscast here. We'll also get you up to date on traffic. Another attack today on U.S. forces in Syria. This one, the third in 2 days. ABC's Andy Field has details.
U.S. official reports 2 new attacks on 2 U.S. facilities in Deir ez-Zor, Syria. 3 drones targeting 1 location, 5 rockets fired at another, injuring 1 American service member. The U.S. destroyed 2 of those 3 drones. Comes after a group fired 5 rockets at another U.S. facility. It all began Thursday when an Iranian-backed group's drone crashed and killed an American contractor, injured 5 service members. The U.S. retaliated with airstrikes that Iran claims killed 7 civilians in a food center.
And with today's Money News wrap-up, here is Daria Albinger.
From ABC News, Wall Street now. Stocks shook off some early jitters to close higher for the session. The Dow rose 132 points, the Nasdaq added 37, and the S&P closed up 21. Investors were spooked early on when shares of Deutsche Bank, Germany's largest lender, fell sharply, sending new fears about the health of the global financial system throughout the market. It's been 2 weeks since Silicon Valley Bank collapsed, with Signature following a few weeks later, and about a week since UBS announced it would take over Credit Suisse. Ford says a new assembly plant being built in western Kentucky will be able to build up to 500,000 electric pickup trucks per year once the facility is in full production by 2025. That plant and a joint venture battery factory at the same site will employ about 6,000 people. France is banning the use of TikTok on Twitter, Instagram, and other apps on government employees' phones, with very few exceptions, citing concerns about data security.
That is your latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Let's talk about United Structural Systems. They've been around for quite a while. I mean, they have over 23,000 satisfied residential customers. So if you're talking about waterproofing, and with all the rain we're probably going to get tonight, this could be a big issue. Or if you need foundation repair, these are the folks you want to reach out to. I know it's scary when you start talking about things like this, but they're honest people. And here's the thing. It could be something big that needs to be fixed. It could be a small problem that will become bigger over time, or it could be nothing at all. You need good, solid, honest advice, and that's what they'll do. They'll come to your home. They'll assess the situation. They'll tell you how they can fix it and make it better. You don't pay a penny if you decide to go forward until the job is done and you're completely satisfied. That's right. No down payment, financing available, lifetime warranties, guarantee for the life of the home. The goal here is for USS to take the stress out of home repair. That's right, homeowners trust USS, and they guarantee their best. Just call USS, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, and Northern Alabama online at USSTN.com. Again, USSTN.com. Or call this number, 615-227-2275.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
It's let's call it 37 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. How you doing? Let's wrap this sucker up and put a big bow on it for the week. Mark Levin coming up at 7 o'clock. He'll carry on for a while. I was listening to Mark last night. I'm telling you, he likes the word Trotskyite. These are Trotskyites, he kept saying.
Trotskyites?
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
You got to know what you're talking about when you listen. You got to understand things when you listen to Mark, because he started talking about Trotskyites. I had to go and look it up.
Yeah, I was going to have to look it up. I don't know what that means.
We've got a breaking story here this evening, and it's Channel 5 seems to be all over it. Phil Williams. Turns out that the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation conducted something of a, I don't know if you called it a raid, I don't know what you would call it, but they descended, is the way it's being put, on the offices of DA Glenn Funk in Nashville as part of an ongoing criminal investigation into the operation of the DA's office. About a dozen TBI personnel were seen going in and out of Funk's offices in downtown Nashville. They were using devices that, according to the manufacturer, designed to detect illicit eavesdropping signals. There have been some questions about cameras that were placed around the office and whether or not they were improperly eavesdropping on people without informing them that there were recording devices and cameras that have microphones in place. And they're being pretty tight-lipped about it, only confirming that indeed they did have special agents of the TBI present today at 222 2nd Avenue North, which includes the office of the DA and the Attorney General. The District Attorney General, working in an official capacity, says the TBI. So this is a story that we'll be watching, I think, next week. Something going on there with regard to that investigation. I want to talk about where we are with regard to 2024. Let me get this out of the way first. On the Republican side of the equation, there are two new polls, according to the Washington Examiner, that show that former President Donald Trump is starting to surge. I talked a little bit about this yesterday. Two new polls show former President Donald Trump in a resurgence, beating Governor Ron DeSantis decisively in a 2024 primary matchup. It isn't too early to ask, the article goes, if the Florida governor has already peaked. Well, it's hard to say he's peaked since he hasn't actually announced that he's running. DeSantis was doing strong earlier this year. The Monmouth University poll just put Trump's lead 41-27. But DeSantis led Trump in that poll as recently as December. There's a new McLaughlin and Associates survey. Trump leads DeSantis 46-23, a 2-to-1 gap. But the numbers, although Trump still did very well, the numbers were stronger for DeSantis just 2 months ago in that particular poll. And it'll be interesting to see. I think DeSantis, he's got to make a decision he's going to announce. He'll get a bump if he does announce. I think that's generally the way it happens. I don't know what's going to happen. I can tell you this, it's early, and often people who are in the lead early are not the people who get the nod when the primary is over. But if you're going, in traditional way of looking at these things, it's Donald Trump's to lose right now. He is doing very well in the primary vote. But again, a lot of miles to go before we get down to the final decision point. And we haven't had one debate, and again, DeSantis is not even officially in the game as yet. But by far, the story that is gaining the most interest, I think, is this story about Kamala. That she is she's not well thought of within the White House, according to a story, sort of a bombshell story that came out of Reuters. Now, I can't get access to the Reuters story. It's behind a paywall, and I'm cheap. I even tried to register, and I still couldn't get it. I don't know. It didn't like my computer or something. Maybe it didn't like me. But one way or the other, I couldn't get the story. But there are many stories being written about that story, so let me go with that. Here's the Fox News version of this Reuters report, which, again, it quotes people from within the administration or people who used to be within the administration who've said some pretty harsh things about Kamala. Biden is annoyed at Kamala Harris for not rising to the occasion, and she is a vice president scared of messing up. I don't think the president sees her as somebody who takes anything off his plate, said one former White House official. President Biden reportedly frustrated at Vice President Kamala Harris for not rising to the occasion as his second in command, according to a report from Reuters. The bombshell story from Reuters included comments from high-ranking officials in the Biden administration, not by name, obviously, who revealed some of the president's candid opinions about Harris. If he did not think she was capable, he would not have picked her, one former Biden official told Reuters. But it's a question of consistently rising to the occasion. A former official highlighted a point of tension between Biden and Harris. I don't think the president sees her as someone who takes anything off his plate, a second former White House official said, adding a fear of messing up has caused Harris to be late in joining important political fights like the ongoing border crisis. She didn't do a very good job there. A current administration official acknowledges Harris's weakness on the border issues and said, I think she is smart. She does not see this as a political win for her because it's not. It's a really hard issue. Well, bless her heart. Oh, it's hard being vice president of the United States and having... That's right. That's right. I don't have my gaggle anymore. Yes, I do. It's over here. It's on this other machine over here. I got my gaggle. Here it is. I mean, she's all good about giggling and laughing, but apparently she's not very good at actually getting things done. And bless her heart, it's a hard thing. Very hard issue. Trying to deal with things like on the market. Well, sunshine, wake up and smell the flowers, man. I'm telling you, you're in the big leagues now. You are the vice president of the United States. One heartbeat away from the presidency. Yes, you might, in that role, I don't know, shocked, stunned, and amazed as you may be, you might actually be handed a difficult assignment. Well, it's hard. It's really hard trying to solve the border. No, it's not really all that hard at all. You simply do what Trump did, and you can lock that border down in a New York minute. Well, but it's hard. We don't want to do that. It's hard. Anyway, it goes on and on and on, all of these comments. And so the question is exactly, what are the Democrats going to do? Here's another story. Washington Examiner again, Biden and Harris both weak going into 2024. Joe Biden's approval rating is 38%. That's almost as low as it has been. The lowest it's been is 36. That's not far off. You can see it in some of the poll's measurements. Respondents were asked, generally speaking, would you say the country is headed in the right direction? It's the oldest question in the polling book. 21% said the country is headed in the right direction. 78% say it's going in the wrong direction. This is not a good metric for the Biden administration. The wrong direction number rose 7 points in 1 month. So that's not good. Pollsters asked respondents to describe their own financial situation. Very good, somewhat good, leans toward good, very poor, somewhat poor, leans toward poor. The number who called the situation some version of good fell 4 points to 53%. That's the lowest that it's been in the Biden presidency. The number who called the situation some version of poor rose 4 points to 47%. So it's the economy, stupid. It's the economy, stupid, and he's in the middle of all that. Here's this thing, and this is the graph I was looking for earlier, and I couldn't find it. Here it is. You know, we have a lot of paper that we go through on this show. He apparently cannot or will not change his vice presidential running mate, and that could be a big problem for Biden. Again, quoting the Reuters report, Biden is increasingly frustrated when the performance and the attitude of Vice President Kamala Harris. Presidents look to vice presidents take on difficult, unrewarding jobs, and Biden doesn't see Harris doing that. A point of tension in their relationship is that I don't think that the president sees her as somebody who takes anything off his plate. The reason? Harris has a fear of messing up. Of course, the vice president already has a low job approval rating. It's fair to say she has not caught on with the public. I think it's fair to say that. She has not caught on with the public during her time in office, and beyond that, does not fix any weakness that Biden has. That is, the two are not a complementary mix. I'm telling you. How do you get out of this mess? How do you get out of this mess? By the way, that's from Byron York. He's always pretty sharp. I think he's really one of the sharpest analysts out there today. The Democrats have a serious problem on their hands. On one hand, they got Biden, who's 80, missing a step. He's in Canada today, and he's talking about China. Oh no, I meant Canada. He doesn't know where he is. You got Kamala, who has got lower ratings than even Biden does, who is looked at as being a lightweight, a featherweight. See, if you're out there and you're looking at Joe Biden, you say, well, he's 80 years old. Well, that would be okay if you had a strong number two that everybody felt confident could step in and take care of things. They don't have that. They've got exactly the opposite of that, somebody that nobody has confidence in, or very few people do. And he can't fire her because he would really get into trouble with certain constituencies of the Democrat Party if he did that. So I don't know. I keep thinking, and this is just me speaking, because not many people are saying this. I mean, the smart money, the conventional wisdom, let's put it that way, is that Biden is going to run with Kamala for another term. and that is decided. But I keep looking at it and thinking, you know what? Surely they're not that stupid. But maybe they are. Time will tell, I guess. 49 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. All right, exciting news for many of you who've lived here a long time. You already know that Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee, been the place to go for your European car repair now for some 24 years. You've gotten to watch them grow. I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, now we're proud to announce a 5th location in Mount Juliet for Eurofix. That's right. Eurofix is now in Mount Juliet, on Mount Juliet Road, right across from the Dairy Queen. Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now again in Mount Juliet. Pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic who starts in a barn in the backyard of his single-wide trailer and watching that small, modest operation grow into 5 locations, and they're repairing thousands of cars each month. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. So call 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX. Or visit myEurofix.com. Well, that's a wrap for this Friday, March 24th. Thank you so much for being a part of what we do. Let me just say once again how much I personally appreciate each and every one of you who find favor with what we do here on this program. I'll be back here Monday at 3 o'clock for another exciting edition of The Drive. Stay tuned. Mark Levin is next.